The city stood in the sea. Its walls rose nearly 45 meters above the water. The island lay almost a kilometer from the mainland. There was open water between the shore and the fortress. Battering rams could not reach the walls. Siege towers could not approach the foundations. Mining the walls was impossible. Tyre was considered one of the most protected cities of the ancient world. And yet in 332 BC, an army appeared on the shore. The army of a young Macedonian king. Alexander looked across the water, at the island, the towering walls and the sea separating them. Then he made a decision that at first sounded almost absurd. If the city stood in the sea, then a road would have to be built to reach it. Only a few months earlier, Alexander had defeated the Persian army at the Battle of Issus. It was a serious defeat for the Persian Empire. King Darius III himself had fled the battlefield. But victory at Issus did not end the war. The Persian Empire was still enormous. Its resources were vast. Its manpower seemed endless. And most importantly, Persia still controlled a powerful fleet. That fleet was based in the Phoenician cities along the eastern Mediterranean. These cities supplied ships, experienced sailors, naval infrastructure. As long as that fleet existed, Alexander's army remained vulnerable. Persian ships could attack his supply routes. They could land forces in Greek cities. They could support revolts in his rear. Alexander understood this clearly, so he made a strategic decision. Instead of marching directly toward the heart of Persia, he began capturing the coastline. This was a war against the Persian navy, and the key to that system was Tyre. Tyre was one of the richest cities in the region. The Phoenicians were the greatest sailors of their time. Their trade connected east and west. Their ships sailed across the entire Mediterranean. But Tyre's greatest defense was geography. Long before Alexander arrived, the original city had stood on the mainland. After earlier destruction, the inhabitants rebuilt their city on an island nearly a kilometer offshore. There, they constructed new defenses, massive walls, towering fortifications rising straight out of the sea. Approaching them from the water was difficult. Approaching them from land was impossible. For this reason, the citizens of Tyre believed they could survive any siege. When Alexander reached the city, he did not begin with war. He tried diplomacy first. He sent envoys. His request was simple. He asked permission to enter the city and make a sacrifice at the temple of Melkart. For the Greeks, this god was associated with Heracles. Alexander believed himself to be descended from Heracles, so performing a sacrifice there had deep symbolic meaning. But the Tyrians understood the political reality. If Alexander entered the city, it would mean acknowledging his authority. So they refused. They offered a compromise. Alexander could perform the sacrifice in the old mainland city, but not on the island. It was a polite refusal, diplomatic, carefully worded. But Alexander interpreted it as a challenge, and he declared that Tyre would be taken. Then the construction began. Macedonian soldiers started dismantling the abandoned mainland city. Stones, broken walls, ruined buildings. Everything was thrown into the sea. The project was enormous. A massive causeway was being built across open water. At first, progress was rapid. Near the coast, the water was shallow. But as the causeway moved farther out, the sea became deeper. Work slowed. The Tyrians began attacking the builders. Archers fired from the high walls. Ships sailed close to the growing mole. To protect the workers, Alexander ordered the construction of huge siege towers. From these towers, archers and catapults could fire back at the defenders. For a moment, the project seemed secure, but the Tyrians soon found a way to destroy the towers. They prepared an old ship. It was packed with combustible materials: pitch, sulfur, dry wood. Then the vessel was set on fire. With the wind behind it, the burning ship was sent drifting directly toward the Macedonian towers. It crashed into the structures. Flames spread instantly. The towers burned. Part of the causeway collapsed. Months of work vanished in fire and smoke. It was a serious setback, but Alexander did not abandon the plan. He simply began building again. While the siege continued, something important was happening elsewhere. Phoenician cities began switching sides: Sidon, Byblos, Cyprus, and with them came their fleets. Soon, Alexander controlled more than 200 ships. Now, Tyre faced a full blockade, from land and from the sea. The siege dragged on for months. The causeway slowly moved closer to the walls. Siege machines grew larger and more powerful. Catapults bombarded the defenses. Stone projectiles struck the fortifications day after day. The city became increasingly isolated, yet the Tyrians continued to resist. The siege lasted nearly 7 months. Finally, everything was ready for the final assault. By this point, the causeway had almost reached the city walls. New siege towers were built, even taller, even stronger than before. From their platforms, catapults and ballistae launched constant bombardment. Stone missiles hammered the defenses, day after day. Gradually, one section of the wall began to weaken. First, cracks appeared. Then, stones started falling away. The Tyrians fought desperately to defend that point. They reinforced the walls from inside. They hurled stones down. They poured burning pitch onto the attackers. But the pressure continued to build, and eventually a section of the wall collapsed. A breach opened. Alexander did not intend to attack from only one direction. He knew the city could fall only if its defenses were overwhelmed everywhere at once. So the assault began simultaneously at several points. Soldiers stormed through the breach along the causeway. Siege towers approached other sections of the wall. From the sea, the fleet launched landing operations. Macedonian ships came alongside the walls. Assault troops climbed directly onto the fortifications. The defenders suddenly faced attacks from every direction. They could not move reinforcements quickly enough. Brutal hand-to-hand fighting erupted along the walls. Some Macedonian soldiers were thrown back into the sea. Others managed to secure footholds. Slowly, the attackers began holding sections of the walls. Once Macedonian troops secured positions on the walls, the situation changed completely. Soldiers began descending into the city itself. The battle moved into the streets. The Tyrians continued resisting fiercely, but their defensive system had already been broken. Macedonian units pushed deeper into the city, street by street, district by district, harbor by harbor. Gradually, control shifted. After 7 months of siege, Tyre fell. After the city was captured, Alexander ordered severe punishment. Some defenders were executed. Many inhabitants were sold into slavery. It was a brutal decision, but it had a clear strategic purpose. Alexander wanted every city in the region to understand one thing: resistance would be extremely costly. After Tyre, many cities chose surrender instead of defiance. The fall of Tyre transformed the strategic situation in the Mediterranean. The Persian fleet effectively lost its base. Phoenician ports were now under Alexander's control. The entire eastern Mediterranean coastline fell into his hands. Now he could move freely, south, toward Egypt, and later east again, toward the heart of the Persian Empire. The Siege of Tyre became one of the most extraordinary operations of the ancient world. It was not simply a battle. It was an engineering project, a strategic campaign, and a psychological demonstration. Alexander did not bypass the problem. He changed the geography of the war itself. He built a road across the sea, and through that road he opened his path to an empire.